Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Like a Boss with me, Lauren. Today I'm in the stacks at the library because we are talking all about effective reading strategies. Reading is one of the most important, but also one of the most time-intensive things that we do at university. And unfortunately, I don't actually know of a single topic where you can get away without doing any of it. And it's especially difficult when you have a huge pile of readings. It feels like you might have to read this whole library. Very, very tight deadlines, and you're really struggling to decipher the often jargon-laced and convoluted sentences of whoever wrote the article or the book that you're reading. Plus, you might actually be finding that at the moment your focus when you're reading is a little bit more wobbly than normal. I've spoken to a lot of people who have said that they're really having trouble concentrating and focusing and actually just being able to read anything, even like fiction and newspaper articles at the moment. So if that is you, you're not alone. And that's why I thought it would be important, not only because it's getting to that point in the semester when we have a lot of assignments due, a lot of our weekly readings are getting bigger and more complicated, but also to hopefully help with some of those focus issues. So let's get into it. I will also say though that reading effectively is a huge topic. It's far more complex than I can possibly cover in this kind of 10-ish minute video. But the Student Learning Support Service have been working on some new resources all about reading. We've got 2 of them out so far. I'll link to them in the blog, so keep an eye out because there will be more coming. So what we actually want to do at university is become active readers. Now, you might think that you know what reading is. It's when we glance our eyes over a text and magically absorb all the information therein, right? Well, no, actually, it's not quite as simple as that. If that's what we are doing, then we're probably passively reading, which is when we become sort of reading zombies and we do just sort of gaze over a text. And no wonder when we do this, we might arise from the haze of it at the end, wondering what on earth we were just reading about. The thing is, just reading a text alone is not actually a particularly effective study or learning method, and it can actually cost you more time in the long run. If you want to comprehend more of your text, remember more of your text, and importantly, save yourself time while you're doing it, it's really important to actually learn and engage in some active reading strategies. Put simply, active reading is the process of reading with intention and with purpose. It's about knowing what you want from a text, being proactive about finding it, and keeping track of it. There are lots of active reading methods. You will find a whole bunch of them if you Google them on the internet, but I've whittled it down to 4 that I think are particularly effective that I hope you will find effective too. So let's get into it. Number 1, plan your reading. We read for lots of different reasons at university, and so it's super important to begin by thinking about what you want to get out of a text before you dive into that text. So, are you reading for a general overview of a topic? Say, for example, your topic coordinator has set it as a text for that week. Are you reading to find evidence for something? Say, you're gathering materials to write an essay. Are you reading to analyze or critique an author's work? Or are you reading to revise or study for a test or an exam? Knowing why you're reading will greatly affect how you read. And this might mean the difference between scanning a text really quickly just to kind of gather those key findings and really slowing down and reading very deeply. If you need to read for a class discussion, have a look at the topic's learning outcomes or look at the week's focus in order to figure out what you think the lecturer wants you to take away from that text or how the text fits with the topic's concepts. If you're reading to research for an assignment, have a think about what key ideas or words or phrases you need to look out for and what perspective you want the author to be writing about them from. And don't forget to consider the format and style of what you're reading and how familiar you are with that text. You're not going to read an article the same way that you read a book, and you're not going to read something that you're deeply familiar with the same way that you're going to read something that you're learning about for the very first time. So consider, how much do you already know about the topic? Is this a new or particularly difficult subject area? And do you feel confident or already have a foundation of knowledge about it? If it is a new topic or you worry that you're going to have some difficulty understanding it, it's a good idea to consider doing some background reading to familiarize yourself with those main ideas before you jump into a really difficult text like a peer-reviewed article that might have a lot of very specific concepts and technical language. And this might mean using a topic-specific dictionary or primer, or going back through and reviewing some of your lecture notes and topic materials. Number 2 is to be selective. You don't have time to read everything that you're allocated. And when you're researching for an essay or something, you don't have time to read every article you come across in depth. There simply isn't enough time in the day. However, you do need to be able to figure out what you need to read in depth and when it's appropriate to skip over something. And this is why it's really important to know your goals and your purpose for reading. So once you know why you're reading, start by having a look at the abstract of an article or the contents page of a book. This will give you a sense of whether or not it is going to be relevant to you. Next, skim and scan the text. This is when we move our eyes very quickly over the entire text to gain a general idea of the content. So look out for headings, topic sentences, keywords and phrases that indicate important and relevant information. You want to get an idea of the general direction and main ideas of the article or book. And this will help you to determine whether or not, yes, it is useful, and actually I do need to slow down and go back for some deeper reading, or no, it's not useful, I can totally throw it out, or actually what's probably far more common, parts of it are relevant and parts of it aren't. And then you know which sections you need to slow down in and which sections you can throw away. Another technique that really helps us to understand a text is to ask questions as we read. Good readers ask themselves questions of what they want from the text, and they ask questions of the text itself. This helps us to locate specific information from the text and understand it structurally, and it also helps us to understand it at a more deeper and critical level. So you might ask yourself questions such as, what is the author's aim? How are they trying to prove it? What literature are they using to base their position upon? What methods are they using? Do these methods make sense to you? Do they seem reasonable? What problems or limitations might exist with their research? What assumptions might they make? What connections are they making between ideas? Where does their argument shift? When are they contrasting or comparing ideas? When are they using another author's work to help support their own? And importantly, what about their research don't you understand? What concepts do you need to look up in a dictionary or go back and find a simpler source to help you understand? If you're stuck trying to understand a text, try turning headings and subheadings into questions. Or write yourself a question in the margins that you think that paragraph will answer, such as, what are the methods of this research? It's also useful to look out for discourse markers. These are words and phrases such as although, furthermore, however, accordingly, according to. These tell you when the argument or position is shifting. So when the author is introducing a new idea or a contradictory point or making a comparison or describing a method or a process. Highlight these or annotate them in the margins and ask yourself why you think the author might be shifting in this way. What is it helping to add to their argument or position or the point that they're making? And number 4 is to take effective notes. The best way to ensure that you not only remember what you've read, but that you understand it, is to take notes. The ability to turn information into your own words demonstrates that you comprehend it at a deeper level. Plus, the process of transcribing will significantly increase your chances of remembering that information, and it will help you to develop those kind of critical thinking skills. But knowing what to take notes of and what you can leave out is very, very difficult. I used to have the habit of writing notes about every single thing that I read in an article, basically because I was really afraid that I was going to miss something important. But of course, I wasted a lot of time and energy, and then my notes weren't useful to me because I didn't know why I was making them. I didn't know what purpose they were going to serve. And I didn't really have any method of being able to apply those notes to what I actually needed to do when I was writing my assignments. And I could talk about note keeping forever. And in fact, maybe one day I'll do a whole blog on it. But here's a few really quick points to get you started. Firstly, remember your goals for reading. They should translate to your goals for taking notes. What do you want from the text? How will these notes be useful to you? What will future you need from these notes? Second, keep them specific and precise. What is most essential and relevant? Plus, if you keep them really concise and in just dot points instead of full sentences, you're going to have a much easier time of paraphrasing later on. 3, keep your notes organized. Use headings and title your pages, use page numbers. It doesn't matter if you're writing them by hand in a notebook or on paper. Keep track of where your notes have come from. Make sure you write down the page number of where your notes come from and the authors. Don't lose that information. What a nightmare. And create some sort of system for yourself. Make sure you keep track of, by highlighting or annotating, things that you need to follow up on. So any questions that you have of the text, things you need to cross-reference with other things or something that might relate to another concept or topic that you've been thinking about. And if you are using something like a highlighting system, make sure you keep it consistent and organized. And remember that if you highlight everything, you may as well highlight nothing. And don't just know what you see. Try to add your own thoughts and ideas as well. Tease out the issues and the problems. This is again going to help show that you understand it and help you link it to your own ideas that you're going to need to develop when you come to use these notes. So that's it, my 4 top tips about becoming a more efficient, effective, active reader. Remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So have a look at some of the resources that I've linked to below in the blog, particularly those modules that the Student Learning Support Service are going to continue rolling out. Good luck, and I will see you next time.